We currently have the best deal of the year live now on poodlecfb.com. If you use code FLASH, capital F, you get $65 off the annual plan, or if you use code FLASH 2025, capital F, you get $6 off the monthly plan. You unlock exclusive spreadsheets, in-depth info, and our members-only Discord. Come join thousands of other members in the fastest growing and best CFB Dynasty community out there. Don't miss out. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Poodle back with another CFB 26 video, and in today's video, I'm gonna be going over a super glitchy recruiting method in Dynasty mode. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to check out poodlecfb.com. And guys, we've recently added so many new tools and insightful features. First, we added playing style deal breakers, which actually allows you to understand why your players are transferring. EA tells you what you need to do for them, but we actually made a sheet that tells you what you really need to do to retain your players with exact thresholds. We have a recruiting chart, which allows you to track your recruiting class in a spreadsheet and grade them out, color code it, do all the tracking. We also have all of our other data sheets, such as our master spreadsheet, our playing calculator, our archetype calculator, and of course you get access to our data lab, which is a place that has all of our testing side by side with our final thoughts of this is the best thing to do and why, this is the data that backs up this is the best way to do that. Our data lab is such an awesome feature that we have over in the Discord. But guys, make sure to use code FLASH, capital F, for $65 off the annual plan, and code FLASH 2025 for $7 off the monthly plan. The best deal of the year. It is a recurring locked-in subscription membership, so if you lock in that price now, you do keep it for the remainder of the time that you spend on poodlecfb.com. Come join the best and fastest growing CFB community out there. Come join over 1,000 members. You won't regret it. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so we were talking over on poodlecfb.com, and we start to cook up a strategy for the best way to recruit without having to actually have elite recruiter and a few other things. Because as we went through this year, we've kind of come to the realization, and not the realization, but the understanding that first off, 50 points isn't enough. It makes recruiting super like non-competitive in the sense that like there's no skill gap early on. It's kind of whoever has elite recruiter recurring coaches win a lot of the recruits, or you have to get lucky. And so you kind of need elite recruiter, but we come to two realizations. If you're in a small school league, you may not unlock elite recruiter to about year 5 or 6, and if you're only playing 8 to 9 seasons, it may not be worth it. If you're in a big school league and you're being beat out by Bama, Georgia, LSU with current coaches, it may also be hard for you to get a top 5 class. So we're trying to think of ways where we can optimize player development and also recruit well. So we came up with the strategy that's absolutely insane. So first and foremost, you want to follow the ideal coach build, which I've already went through. For small schools, it involves strategist. For bigger schools, it involves elite recruiter. Although, where I'll make the exception is on my ideal coach build, if you haven't seen it, where we lean talent developer, motivator, and program builder. You can cut out the elite recruiter and CEO and go up to strategist tier 3, which is going to be tier 4, which is going to be super important, which is mind reader. So this is if you can't get elite recruiter or you're trying to forego it. And honestly, this may still be super OP regardless of it. What this strategy that we're going to go through allows you to do is basically maximize the ceiling of your team and go like full-blown on player development because of one key thing. If you look at mind reader, I'm going to drop my webcam for a second. Mind reader is the increased chance to learn a dev trait of a QB while scouting or any position that you do it at. So you're going to want this at every position except quarterback, except kicker, every position but kicker and punter. Now the way this works is, let's talk through a few things first. So when you recruit, you're recruiting for high ceiling and high floor. So the best thing about getting 5 stars is they have a high floor. So even if they're stat capped, they'll start at like a 77 to an 82, and you'll still get them to a 90 relatively easily. Now the problem with recruiting 2, 3, and 4 stars, especially 2 and 3 stars, is that they'll start in like the 60s or low 70s, and if they have a bad stat caps, they're gonna finish in the mid 80s. They're not gonna get to 90. So 5-star essentially gives you that higher ceiling. Now when does that not happen? Well, the beauty of 2, 3, and 4 stars is that you can still bring in a great dev. If you bring in an elite or star dev at a 3 or 4 star, even though they'll start lower, their ceiling is still there to get higher. The problem is when you bring in a 2, 3, or 4 star that's like impact or normal, because their ceiling and floor is just much lower than a 5-star who's a bust. Like a 5-star who's an impact still has a decent ceiling of like 87 to 90. So this is where we're going to actually break this, and instead of having to go straight through and focus solely on getting 5 stars only in the case where you can't, which helps out a lot the majority of people here, think about it this way. When you go through your team, let's look at the star dev quarterback right here. And of course, these are current day players, so it's a little different. But typically a star dev quarterback, even a 4-star right here, will have pretty solid caps. Accuracy can go up, throw power can go up, because he's a star dev. If he was a elite dev, he'd probably have no caps. Now, if we were to find, like, let's say an impact dev, or a normal dev here, look at this quarterback, who is a 2-star or 3-star, right? Normal dev guy. He has a lot more caps. And honestly, again, these are modern day players. If we use like actual recruited players, you'll find that 2, 3, and 4 stars with normal dev are completely capped and have super bad ceilings, and they'll grow really slow. So now we're gonna get into the strategy where we're gonna actually flip this on its head, and instead of having to out recruit and always bring in the 5-star and dominate, this way you can just start from year 1 or 2 this way instead of going the elite recruiter route. So let's head on over to our recruiting board, and I'm gonna show you an entirely different approach to recruiting. So there's a few things you guys need to know about this. First and foremost, like I said, you need strategist tier 4. This is going to be like the alternate recruiting build. So when we're going through, first off, I added a bunch of players to my board ahead of time so you guys can see this. Let's go through one by one here. So let's say we want to bring in players and we want to focus on talent developing. So what I'm going to have is talent developer tier 4. I'm going to have motivator tier 3. I'm going to have program builder. I'm going to drop elite recruiter. And this is going to be the strategy where you bring in high ceiling guys and you go all in on player development. So let's scout this guy. So click scout one time. When you're scouting with MindReader, on the first click, and I'm going to turn my webcam off for this, on the first click, the development trait is revealed. So don't scout 3 times. You're actually wasting points. We tested this over a lot on poodlecfb.com. So basically, if you were to scout 3 full times right here like this, and you waste it, the development trait's still a question mark. So it is predetermined. We did this test by running an offline league with save points. So what we did was we started a save point right here. We clicked A on this guy. We backed out and we did it 100 times. And each time he was a question mark. Then we went to another guy who is actually available. So let's go through one that's actually going to reveal. Let's find one that's going to reveal here. And let's see if we could showcase this. So this guy's star dev. So what we did was we created a save point and we basically went back through and did him 100 times. And he was star every single time. What that tells us is that it's predetermined. It's predetermined on the first click whether or not you're going to reveal it or you're not going to reveal it. So what this allows you to basically do is not waste scouting points. Don't do it 3 times. You only got to ever do it 1 time. So that way it's only going to cost you 10 points to reveal, which means if you have 750, you have 75 attempts. You have 750 hours, 75 attempts to discover dev traits, at least in this first week 1 scouting period. So let's go through. I'm going to show you guys what I'm trying to do here. So let's go through a quarterback. Again, I'll turn off my webcam for this portion so you guys can see. So let's scout 1 time here and let's keep going through. So the goal, what you're trying to do is assess positions based on their dev trait. And this is actually going to allow you to have a super cool high ceiling strategy. So let's go through, just to start with the first one right here. Let's go through these halfbacks and then I'm going to go through all these positions in just a second. So now let's go back. Let's filter by position. So in this recruiting cycle, what you're going to want to do is strictly chase the guys with the dev trait, because this allows you to actually get a super high ceiling. Think about this. If you bring in 5 stars who are impact, they're going to have a bad ceiling and a good floor. If you bring in a 5-star, they're going to have, or star dev 5-star or elite dev 5-star, they're going to have a high ceiling and a high floor. But the way you always counteracted not being able to recruit 5 stars was basically by focusing solely on the hope of a good dev trait. So smaller teams who bring in a few 3 stars with elite dev, they have the potential to grow them. So if you do the growth ideal coach build with this, you'll actually be able to like cherry pick what you want and basically build a super team. So look at this. Let's go to the quarterbacks. We scouted all these quarterbacks, right? So as you can see, we didn't get the dev trait in all of them, but we did get this guy as a star and we got this guy's an impact. So what I would do from here is, you could still add a few more later, but what I'd basically do now is this is how I'm going to cut my board to. I'm going to cut my board to strictly the star dev guys, because everyone else is going to be recruiting basically based on 5 stars and strictly the stats they start with. But remember, in this game, you actually have a lot more room for growth because there's more actual attribute upgrades per position. So now you're able to do something that's really cool, which is this. You can find the star dev quarterbacks. Let's say you found 2 or 3 of them. What I would do is I would see who offered those 2 or 3. So if I found 2 or 3 stars in elite devs, I'd offer all 3 QBs a scholarship. In the first advanced week, I would then go all in on 1 or 2 that were being mostly unrecruited or ones I could win. This allows you to basically cherry pick. Like you have like a magic ball, a crystal ball, and you could just see who's going to be elite dev. And it's really awesome because it doesn't cost a lot of points. Last year was a lot different and a lot tougher because you have to do it after a visit. This year you could just cherry pick the way you want to do it, which makes it so incredibly different than last year. So again, let's look here. We have a star dev, and then let's see if we can get one more here. So we have 2 star devs. So what I would do in this situation is I'd now remove all the guys, like this normal dev guy. See, like that's a guy that if I brought him in, he's a bust. Like you bring him in, cool, he's not useful. Now, like I said yesterday, there is a strategy involved here where you actually go all in on those guys because you want to get elite recruiter, but we're doing an alternate strategy where you're not going strictly for elite recruiter. You're trying to basically out develop people, which this year, and like we've been testing this over on poodlecfb.com, this may actually be the year where development may be king. And that's not because recruiting isn't better. It's that recruiting is just takes longer to get to, in my opinion, than last year. And in a lot of leagues that don't go 10 plus years, it may not actually give you a good ROI, like return on investment, for getting elite recruiter in year 7 and then recruiting for 2 good years and then they never develop. So this year, without good talent developers, this is a strategy that I'm heavily considering. So now we've narrowed our board down to 2 star guys. And actually, you know what? Let's move this up for this video so that you guys can see everything. I don't have to keep moving it. So we have 2 star guys right here. So now this is how my board's gonna look. Star quarterback is what I'm keeping on the board. Let's move up to this guy that was a star, get everyone else off. Now, of course, like I said, you're gonna have some extra room in your recruiting class, and you could keep it that way if you want, and you could add a few more guys later in case of a backup. But if you could just really narrow this down to strictly star players, you'll essentially be able to go through and bring in an entire class of star and elite dev players. So let's go through and recruit here. You have normal, impact, and oh, by the way, guys, there's also some data here to how this reveals. So we tested this over on poodlecfb.com as well. It's based on your stars. So 5 stars were being revealed at about a 25% clip. So for every 4, maybe 5 that we did, like a 20-25% clip, maybe even 15. So between 15 and 25%. So for every 1 to 6 5 stars we scouted, we got 1 reveal. For 4 stars, it's closer to about like 40 to 50%. For 3 stars, it's closer to 50%. And the lower you go, the easier it is to reveal them, which makes this super easy. Like if you're a small school, remember, you can do this with a smaller school. You would just be doing this on 2 and 3 stars instead of 4 stars. So let's go add some more. Let's go add some more wide receivers. Clearly, we're not going to be happy with the wide receivers that we're bringing in here. I can also add a few 5 stars for you guys to see if we can hit on any of these with a dev. But let's go in. And remember, scale this for the size of the school you have. Every school is going to be a different size, so just make sure you're recruiting and looking at the ones that actually apply to your school. So right now we're bringing in a high ceiling quarterback, a high ceiling running back. Now what we want to do is bring in a high ceiling wide receiver. So that's our next search. And because it only costs 10 points per check, based on the testing we did, that means that we have a lot of chances at doing this. Impact dev. And of course, if you prioritize a little bit, if you don't have as many hours, make sure that you're not doing all wide receivers. Prioritize a little bit. If you know, like, you're really set on defense right now with high ceiling guys, maybe this is the season that you prioritize scouting these. And this also is great for the second wave of recruiting, because think about it this way: when you're doing just strictly going for the best guys, by the middle of the season, you don't know what you're coming back for. But thankfully, since you could do high-level strategist recruiting with Mind Reader, when you come back for that second wave, people are just going to take the top 4 stars they see on their board and try to recruit them next. You can actually dip into the 3 stars that are mostly unrecruited and try to cherry pick the ones that are elite or star dev and bring in some other high-ceiling talent to keep this going. And you could waste some scouting points at that point because you're in the second half recruiting stage. You already brought in your first set of guys. So we got 1 star dev guy there, normal there. And this really kind of shows you guys how many normal impact devs you can get. That's elite. That's awesome. But it shows you like how many chances you have at just randomly grabbing a bad guy, even though you can look, that's another elite. And what else we got? Remember, this is a scouting week, so we're not wasting any hours. We're not like wasting our recruiting hours and all this doesn't work. Like, this is a week that's meant to be scouting. So, I mean, at that point you could have stopped. We have enough. So now what I'll do is I'm taking off all the other guys on my board. Let's stick with these elite guys, which is clear as day, and just think about the upside of this class. And I'm going to go back to the coaching board in just a second to show you guys how all this really looks for me when all is said and done. But now we have an elite guy, we have another elite guy, and we have a star dev guy. So far, our recruiting class is going to be, or that we're aiming at. And remember, I know you might be saying that people can compete for you on these guys. While that's true, you have to also realize that we're digging deep in the bag here. We're going to like level 150 rank, 200 rank recruits for these guys. We're not strictly going after the top speed guys, off the top guys on the board. So the chances of everyone going after these guys, like TCU, Missouri, SMU, like we're not like competing against, like Bama's down the board in Oklahoma. So these might not be guys who are first on their board to begin with that they're thinking about. So you're going to be just cherry picking easy targets here, which is really the beauty of this. And honestly, one of the reasons I love this strategy so much is because I've went through situations where I brought in like 15 5 stars, 10 4 stars. And when I looked at my class, I'm like, really only 1 elite? Like, yeah, they're still good because they're 5 stars. But if you were to do that with 4 stars and you only brought in 1 elite, like, you're in a bad situation. You basically have to be hitting the top end of the 5 stars to be able to balance out the bad devs. And this is just a really awesome way to do it. So we have this. I could go across the entire board for you, but I think you get the point. We're bringing in a high ceiling quarterback. We're bringing in a high ceiling halfback, 2 high ceiling halfbacks, and then we're bringing in 3 high ceiling when we get down to the star and elite guys, 3 high ceiling wide receivers. So we have a star, we have an elite, and then we have another elite down the board here. So it's going to be 2-star running backs, 1-star quarterback, 1-star wide receiver, and 2 elite wide receivers. If you're even a bigger school, like an LSU, a Bama, a Clemson, and you have 1,000+ hours, you could basically do your whole roster. And like I said, you didn't need 3 top-tier wide receivers. It was just so I could showcase some more of it because I do have the package. Now remember, these things do actually stack, and there is something interesting here when it comes to these packages. So let me take you back to the coaching packages to kind of like further elaborate on this. When you go to coaching abilities, first, understand that strategy stacks. So if you have it on both your coordinators and your head coach, that's when you get like that maximum bonus of the analysis and the testing that I told you guys about on poodlecfb.com. Now, if you only have it on your head coach, you're gonna get it at a lower clip. If you have it stacked, you can get a higher clip. Now, remember, this is one of the things that actually does apply to position groups. So if your head coach has it, he could do it on both sides of the ball. But if your offensive coordinator has it for quarterback, and you do it on a defensive player, you're not getting the boost for the offensive coordinator strategist. And if you're doing it on a defensive coordinator and you're recruiting an offensive player, you're not getting his boost to the same effect. So understand that that's something that happens in this game too. So you definitely want to have coordinators that also could stack it with you to make this even more effective, because once you have 2 coordinators and your head coach all stacking it, that's when you're hitting it at like almost every clip. And it's like revealing the whole board. It's like flipping the entire board and just seeing everything and what they are and their talent and their overall. It is the best thing you could do. And remember, dev works better this year. Last year, dev was a little weird. Like, you could have an elite dev, but they still growed slow. This year, if you have an elite dev, you noticeably grow them quicker. If you have elite dev and then you stack this, what I love is just tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. With elite dev, you have a freshman quarterback who gains better XP. They're starting, which gains better XP, and you get them an elite dev and star dev across the board, and then you get the motivator tier 3, or maybe you take it a step further and get motivator tier 3 on master motivator. You're going to be dominating. So there's a world also where when I do this, I completely drop recruiter. I completely drop recruiter. You don't need tier 1 recruiter anymore, because tier 1 recruiter is less scouting points. You don't need that. You can completely drop CEO, recruiter as a whole, and then go all in on talent developer, strategist, and motivator. And program builder is also helpful just to get you guys higher on the board in case you do have to compete a little bit with the pipelines. But you guys can decide that based on your specific dynasty and your needs. I really love this strategy, and honestly, it might be a strategy that I pivot to in leagues where I don't think elite recruiter is pretty feasible. For instance, I just started the league, I joined late, and it's become likely that I already missed the season. And while I was super close, I just missed the cuff at like the 7 or 6 mark. If I go a few more seasons like this with other people getting elite recruiter, I may fall behind from that mark. So I think from this point on, I should probably take the strategist approach and do that. I'm telling you guys, I've ran some simulations with this, and it is ridiculous. When you bring in multiple classes with high ceilings like that, plus the dev ideal coach build, it's golden. It really is. And then if you get lucky with a few development trade upgrades in the offseason, and you get some star guys to elite, your whole team's just going to be a bunch of cyborgs. But that's about it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And of course, guys, as you guys see, if you want to be a part of the greatest database in the CFB community, the fastest growing community, over 1,000 members, come join poodlecfb.com, get access to our data lab, which just gives you even more insight than this. There's so much more for just the members that you guys don't even see on this channel. Use code FLASH, capital F, for $65 off the annual plan, and code FLASH 2025, capital F, for $7 off the monthly plan. Best deal, and it is a recurring deal, so you're grandfathered into this for the lifetime of your membership. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want some direct access to me and some of the stuff I say. Head over to Twitter and follow me there as well. Everything will be down below in the description and in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out. Peace.